Hello and welcome to Reviews. You're probably wondering why I have the Unstoppable Wasp number 4. Because, I said in the first issue, when I reviewed that it was obvious this book is not aimed at me. I'm not the target audience. Um, and I did the first two issues. Mostly because I like the art team. They're the same ones that did Gwenpool. Um, but I realized I'm not the target audience, and it really did not feel fair for me um, to review the book. Um, yeah, especially the first issue was really stupid and full of bad dialogue, and yeah, I didn't really like it. But like I said, I'm not the target audience, and even the title, "The Unstoppable Wasp." It's one of those problems um, that I see with a lot of modern Marvel with some of the newer characters they're pushing out. Um, the Unstoppable Wasp, the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. It's like there's no adversary. Um, it just seems like everyone is great at what they do, um, and that's not where conflict comes from. That's not what makes things interesting. It's the whole hero's journey, the unsurmountable odds, overcoming. So after the second issue, where basically, there was just Janet and Nadia fight some creature that just, you know, goes away. It's inconsequential. And then they go to a wrestling match, and that was pretty much it. They after the match they find out that their lab's being attacked. So I noped out of that and said that's enough. I'm not going to review this book anymore. And I did see some of the other reviews for issue 3, which was the big fight, and it looked pretty good. It looked like the book turned around. Um, I didn't pick it up. I just saw some of the reviews, and I wasn't planning on getting this. It was actually this cover. This cover really stood out because I had known what happened in the previous issue, that Wasp and Girl and whatever the science team is, um, that they got a smackdown. They got beaten down, and so I saw this cover, and that look on her face, the pale skin, you know the tired eyes, the bloodshot, well, not bloodshot, but the red circle around the eyes, maybe some herpes here. Okay, okay, maybe not, but and the board just fix everything, fix everything, fix everything. Like, okay, she snapped. Okay, she's dealing with what happened, and that struck me as interesting. And basically, yeah, that's exactly what this issue is. It's the aftermath of the previous battle where everyone is going to the hospital. Mockingbird's had her leg broken. Janet is uh, basically watching as there's rifts between the girls and girl, whose names I'm not even bothering to remember anymore. Um, and Nadia is taking this really, really hard. And of course, there's a little side plot here where they had seen one of the girls leave with the villains, but here she is in the hospital with them. So we got a little bit of a setup there, what's going on. And like I said, I only watched some reviews of the previous issue. I can't speak. I didn't actually read it myself. So, um, and Janet is so worried about taking care of the girls. She has a dislocated shoulder. Um, and it takes her forever before she can finally um, get her own shoulder relocated, and then she crashes for like 12 hours. She wakes up at noon and everyone's eating, although the food looks really weird the way like these are actually drawn in, but everything else is kind of done after. Just a little thing I noticed. um, So yeah, then we cut to what Nadia's been up to. So we go back in time to 2 a.m. So we go back 10 hours, and we're following the two wasps. We see Janet's concerns, and now we see Nadia. And this is actually kind of cool. Um, she's going through, after what happened the previous night, after the battle. Um, I haven't had a good idea in weeks, so I had to come to the lab. This place is a bit of a mess thanks to the attack, but that's just one of the many things I need to solve. And tonight, I feel like I can solve everything. I'm going to solve everything. So we see, she's got her board started, and she's coming up with ideas. She's investigating what happened, trying to get security footage, looking for evidence, and, you know, where are the cameras in their rooms? There are no security cameras in the bedrooms of these teenage girls, Nadia. That would be terrible. That's the first thing we need to change. We need to stay safe. I have to add that to my list. You see, that's the kind of thing that, in the idea, with the whole security theater that goes on, um, when something happens, these little rights, suddenly start to seem like a good idea to get rid of those. Um, because Nadia's been really affected by this beatdown. She's actually faced some um, adversity that she couldn't beat. Um, so yeah, she's going through um, trying to solve everything, and her board keeps getting more and more stuff put on it, and she's trying to figure out, look for clues on this, solve. She had to invent something for her project that was supposed to be coming up. Um, and she's figuring out, the mysteries of the girls, and her list just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And she's, in this 10-hour period, basically, she's having a manic episode. Um, she gets to a point where I must have gotten distracted. Never quite finished putting this. Wait, was I putting this together or taking it apart? And she's keeps going on, and I can't really go too much farther, I don't think. But it comes down to, she needs time. So apparently, in this little crystal necklace, she has a little lab that she can shrink into and work in there for, because there'll be a time dilation effect. Time will move slower in there, which I don't recall that ever being part of the whole shrinking, that it changes time perception. Maybe it does. I don't recall that. Maybe this is something with that of her own invention. And then, yeah, we get back to noon, and Janet starts catching up to Nadia's time because we went back 10 hours. So, um, and yeah, now they're going to go try and find Nadia where she went. And um, Janet and Mockingbird find the board, and you might want to see this. And Janet recognizes this. Oh no, what are we looking at here? And she explains, and this is actually kind of a neat thing, because Hank Pym has not been the most stable. He was bipolar, and so there's a little bit of an explanation that she must have inherited his bipolarity. Is that how you would say that? Um, and that she's having a manic episode, which, you know, when I was reading this was the first thing I thought. I've known people uh, who have bipolar and who are bipolar, and when they're off their medicine, they get like this. Um, so yeah, it's really interesting. It's not till the very end that there's any type of action, but it does get kind of good. And this is an interesting character study. You see, Heroes in Crisis. It's so good that this came on the heels of the latest issue of Heroes in Crisis, which is all about PTSD, which is all about therapy. But we're not really seeing that in that book. A book that's supposed to be more or less about. And at least that's what Tom King has been saying. It's about PTSD, and a murder mystery. But here we see the effects of someone losing and how they cope with it. And that, Nadia is, being in the red room. She is so used to being the top of everything, and when she really gets hit by a setback, she kind of snaps and goes into full charge. I need to fix everything. I'm going to make everything better, as you can see by the Booster Gold-esque board here, fix everything, fix everything, fix everything. This actually wasn't bad. Um, it kind of reminded me of that one episode of 21 Jump Street way back in the day. Maybe I mentioned this before. Feels like I have. When Johnny Depp's character, his girlfriend, gets killed, and he starts obsessing about all the things you can do in, like, what was it, 13 seconds or whatever. Um, and he obsesses over his failure, and that's what she's doing. She's going through this whole thing, and it's fascinating, it's interesting, and that's why I brought up the whole Unstoppable Wasp. A lot of the new Marvel books, a lot of the characters, it's the they don't lose. They don't really have. There's no sense of danger. There's no sense that they will lose. And when you put right in the title, unstoppable, unbeatable, unstoppable, you can say that's more for her determination. Squirrel Girl, unbeatable. I mean, that's pretty cut and dry. But that's where conflict comes from. That's where things can be interesting. And here we see when someone is beaten and they're beaten down. How do they get back up? Nadia, because of her bipolar, is going way in the other direction, way too hard. She's pushing herself. And near the end of the book, she looks really rough. She's not thinking right. She's not even speaking in English. And I enjoyed this book. It's not, I guess you would say, not super action heavy. Um, the ending's kind of neat. Um, but it's it's an interesting character profile. We get to see more into this character that you know I didn't read her previous series. I've only read the previous two books, the first two issues of the series, and I really didn't care for her. And now you see what happens when someone who always has something that goes their way and and they lose. How do they deal with it? And she's having a breakdown. That's interesting. That is better than Heroes in Crisis. Now, saying this is a great book, I still feel that this book, that I'm not the target audience. But I can say I enjoyed this. Um, I really enjoyed this book. Um, yeah, and I like the art. Um, I've said that about the creative team before. Um, and I really don't want to show too much here. Um, So maybe I just sneak up one panel. Yeah, you see, I mean, look how rough she's looking. She's just pushing herself and pushing herself. And yeah, it's good. I enjoyed this. Um, I think this issue was more up my alley. I still don't think I'm going to continue reading this. Maybe I'll check out the next issue. I don't think I'm the target audience, but I can say I was not disappointed. I was curious when I saw this cover, and again, here's an issue where the cover is related to what's going on in the book. And there's so many books that don't do that anymore. So that's really nice to see this. That's some classic comics right there. I like that. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna go. Let's see. I go about 10:30. I'm gonna go about 10:30. I still don't think this book is aimed at me. I don't think I should be enjoying this. I think this is a happy coincidence. But I will say it set out to do better than what it set out to do is better than what Heroes in Crisis is trying to do. And so I got to give it props on that. It's interesting, it's compelling, and it's made Nadia for once interesting. And like I said, we're seeing things where her she's making irrational decisions, making poor decisions, to give up basic rights for security. And you can read more into that. You can even say that it may be a statement on the current political climate. Maybe, I don't know. It could have been intentional, could not have been. But that's how I read it, and yeah, I liked it. So yeah, maybe I'll pick up the next issue. We'll see what happens. So anyway, thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Feel free to leave a comment. Did you read this? Am I wrong? Maybe this has been a rough week. There's been so much crap that I've read, the past several days straight that maybe I'm just like something that's not horrible seems great in comparison. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.